Welcome to the QIC-EY podcast. This episode is all about lessons learned. I'm your host, April Dinwiddie. In this episode, we are exploring how leaders set the tone for building relationships that drive authentic engagement of children and youth. And we have a very special guest.
Hello, I'm Addie Williams, the former president and CEO of Spalding for Children. I am a strong advocate for the engagement of children and youth and planning around their lives and permanency for them.
While senior level leaders are not always engaged directly with clients, their ability to value and model relationship building within an organization can create the conditions for staff to maximize opportunities to develop important connections with the children and youth they serve.
Relationship building is central to engaging children and youth, and it starts at the top of any organization. I know that as a leader, that I have to approach the building of relationships in an authentic manner. And if I am authentic and show value and caring for my staff, that translates and trickles down to them showing value and establishing authentic relationships with children and youth.
With a leaders go first spirit, Addie shares more about her perspectives on how leaders in child welfare can't expect staff to do something that they are not willing to do themselves.
As a leader, you have to model the behavior that you're expecting from your staff. You've got to walk the walk that you're talking about. If you are doing something differently with your staff, then how can you expect them to do something you tell them to do with families? So I feel like if safety, permanence, and well-being is important for my families and my children, then safety, permanence, and well-being I need to exhibit and plan for with my staff. I have found that when your staff feel valued, when your staff have input into decisions that are made, when your staff feel like they are in a safe place, that it translates into better services for the children and families that they work with.
So again, even though senior leaders don't always have direct connection with children and youth day in and day out, the efforts that they make with their staff can make all the difference. I asked Addie to talk about creating the conditions for staff to be fully engaged and about her inclusive leadership style.
Staff were always aware of what decisions were non-negotiable and why, and what things that they had input into. And there was no one voice that was more powerful than another voice. One of the good things about my staff is, and I used to say, and jokingly, we all had very different pathologies, but they complemented one another. And so we had the person who always saw the glass as half full. We had the person who always saw the glass as half empty. We had the detail person. So we all had different skills and we valued those skills of each other. And I valued their skills. And so I tried to make sure that my staff were able to demonstrate those skills that they had in terms of the running of the agency. And in return, that trickled down to how they treated their own staff. And so, in terms of the staff, I made sure that they felt safe in their environment, that we had nice offices, they had the equipment and tools that they needed. And I was always very transparent with every aspect of the agency. So they knew if we are doing well, that they do well. If we're having issues, we all have issues. And I also provided for their well-being.
Addie helps us understand that it's so important to make sure that staff feel valued, included, informed, and that they have the skills and equipment to do the work that they need to do. This kind of working environment where voices are valued across the board can help staff as they remain open to hearing feedback from children and youth that they work with.
Staff are able to accept from a child or a teenager that I don't want to live with this person. I don't want to go there. This is what I want to do, and not feel threatened and not feel like they have all the answers. When I put myself out there as an individual who doesn't have all the answers, don't necessarily know what's best for you, then staff can model that behavior and be comfortable when working with children and youth to say, what is it that you want? Where do you want to live? What school do you want to go to? Who do you want to be your mentor? To listen to them who may have ideas that are not exactly the same as the worker believes that they should do, but are willing to go along with what they're saying because they feel like they best know what's good for them. One of the things that I've noticed, even with a 3-year old, is that they have opinions about what they want, and when you give them or do what they want, they respond a lot better than when you're trying to force something on them because you think it's best. So I think modeling the behavior that I am not the beginning and the end allows staff to be comfortable giving power to the children and youth that they work with to aid in the decisions that are being made about their lives.
A great life lesson for all of us is to recognize that we don't have all the answers. And this is even more important for child welfare professionals as they truly hear children and youth. What the children and youth need, what they think, what they feel, and what they want to advance their lives. Now that we have a clear sense of the importance of leadership, walking the walk, building an inclusive work environment, and fully realizing that leaders play a central role in how staff will engage with children and youth, I wanted to talk to Addie about what can be unintended barriers to the work of engaging children and youth.
First of all, it's hard. It's when you have laws and policies and procedures and consequences for not following laws, policies, and procedures, you have to be very careful in terms of what you do, but you have to build in that flexibility. Families are not 9 to 5. Issues that come up don't come up between 9 to 5. And so you have to have something in place so that you can address and have some flexibility, some time to spend with youth and children outside of your normal work hours.
Time can be one of the more complicated elements of the work overall, but does not have to be a barrier. And it requires open and practical conversations that are led by leaders to make sure staff have the flexibility they need to meet children and youth where they are.
I would suggest that there be open dialogue in the organization about what's actually needed to engage youth. I cannot think of an organization where there's no flexibility in terms of time. That's a policy issue that generally happens within the organization. So there is no law that says the work hours must be 9 to 5. So within an organization, if you are really truly interested in engaging youth and engaging children, then you look at your internal policies that you do have control over and develop policies and procedures that help facilitate that relationship building and that engagement. You can have flexible work hours. They don't have to start at 8. They don't have to start at 9. You can build in some flexibility there. You can have situations where rooms or places within your organization can be made private so that when individuals come in, they feel comfortable having a private conversation about their situation. You can put in policies, procedures, training that youth will be a part of their planning, that you cannot develop a plan without engaging that youth in terms of what the terms are in that particular plan. Those are things that don't cost you money. Those are things that are within any organization's power to do.
Leaders can't control everything, but they can build more flexibility and environments that are conducive to staff to be fully engaged in creating relationships with children and youth. Now, a bit more about some of the unintended consequences of policies like the legal age of consent to adoption, which in some states is 14. Even if 14 is the stated age that a youth can share what they want, it does not mean that a child or youth that is younger should not be engaged in the conversation about adoption.
At 14, you can make that decision, but 12-year-olds can have input into where they want to go. A 7-year-old can tell you where they want to go. A 5-year-old can discuss who they want to live with. And so I think sometimes that number of 14 gives the wrong idea to folks.
This might be one of the most important points in this podcast. Laws, policies, and practices, which can differ state by state and county to county, do not have to be barriers for the transformational engagement of children and youth. A big thank you to Addie Williams for helping us explore this lesson learned, how senior leaders set the tone for authentic engagement of children and youth. Even though child welfare leaders do not always engage with children and youth directly, the tone they set and the actions they take to build open, inclusive, and caring environments for their staff can have a direct and lasting impact on children and youth. The QIC-EY is 100% funded by the Administration for Children and Families of the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Thanks for listening.